Well, we have a shocking poll that exposes how much the elite actually hates us. This should come as a shock to absolutely
All right.
nobody at
Now,
all, really.
in the beginning of the show, I talked about the Georgia Guidestones and how they were supposed to maintain a world population of 500 million people.
Yeah.
So you're going, when he shows you this document, we're going to go through it. You're going to see exactly what those people think of you. They literally think of you as useless eaters.
That is absolutely correct. One of the things that the fact checkers, places like the New York Times did, is take that useless eaters thing and try to point it back at Hitler because everything is Hitler's fault. For the record, I'm a fan of nobody in a suit who is in charge of anything. I do not do cult of personality, period.
Nope.
But they always use the Nazi excuse, and it seems to become apparent that everything they accuse the Nazis of, they've been doing. The survey was conducted by the Committee to Unleash Prosperity, which I've never heard of, a Maryland-based nonprofit advocacy group. 77% of elitists who were asked to fight climate change, would you favor or oppose the strict rationing of gas, meat, and electricity? 77% said they would shut off your gas, your food supply, and your electricity because they're the useless eaters in this equation. 69% of elitists wanted an immediate ban on gas stoves, while 81% want gas-powered vehicles outlawed, because, of course, that won't apply to them and they'll be fine.
And guess what? We had this whole EV thing going on here. Where did that come from? Oh, I wonder, because the people here in America weren't going, you know what'd be really cool? If we had nothing but electric vehicles. Said almost no American ever.
No, nobody ever said anything like that. Hey, I have a weird crisis going on in my back row that I have to attend to really quick. Could you take the reins? Are you able to grab the tab, Jimmy?
Yeah. Let me see if I can figure this one out here.
What's going on? You all right, Steve?
We're having a dog meltdown apparently in the background here that requires my attention, unfortunately.
All right. Don't stomp.
But I should just be but a moment.
Okay. All right. But here's the thing about the WEF. All right. For instance, this digital currency that they want to push on us. Why the fuck is our government coming up with all of these fucking ideas that we don't fucking want? Like, we just heard about the whole gas stove thing. Am I right, Jimmy? Remember they talked about that last year and a little bit the year before that?
Yep, they they didn't really want to ban them. They just wanted to regulate them. But even though they specifically did come out in what was it, New York City, somewhere in California, shocker, and like a few other cities were saying, "Oh yeah, we need to limit natural gas usage because it's harmful to the environment."
Yeah, I got you. Where did that come from? Well, when we go through this document, you're going to see exactly where this shit is coming from. And it's not a coincidence. All right. As we go through this document, you're going to see all of the crazy fucking horse shit that these guys want to push on the rest of the world. Now, granted, they have a lot of money. Most of the people pulling the strings here have billions and billions of dollars, or at a minimum, $500 million. Under assets under their control. And when you have that kind of money and you can buy that kind of influence, what is that saying about power? What is it, Jimmy? Power, what's it do again?
I believe absolute power corrupts absolute.
Yes. And we're seeing a two-tier justice system with the people at the top getting a pass. I just read the news today that Nancy Pelosi had a 65% return on some of her stock portfolios. I wonder how that fucking happened, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they totally don't do insider trading or anything like that.
No, we have the Latino, titty dancer bartender who was literally $30,000-$40,000 in debt when she walked into office. And if you do a Google search, she's got anywhere from $12 to $24 million to her name. Like, where's this money coming from? Oh, that's right. The people at the top, Yeah, 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 and they've literally they've gutted this Constitution in the country, and we're going to go through it piece by piece.
It's Article 4, Section 4. I've said it a billion times. We have no obligation to one of the benefits of America is we do not have an obligation to tolerate this. It is in the Constitution. There are ways that you can take care of this. Uh, there are counties here in Michigan that are fighting back that have said that we're not taking orders from the WEF. We're not taking this garbage any longer. Let's go back over here and look at this again. 67% of elitists also believe that teachers who should decide what children are taught. They want to teach your children what they want your children to learn. This is as Orwellian as it gets, man. 74% say their finances are getting, well, just 20% of the general public says the same. The rich are just getting richer and richer and richer. Now, I found the document where a lot of this comes from, and it is from Them Versus Us, the Two Americas and How a Nation's Elite is Out of Touch with the Average Americans. This is the Committee to Unleash Prosperity staff. This is the actual document. It's an executive summary here. Let me tell you about the very rich. They're different from you and me. They possess and enjoy early, and it does something to them. Makes them soft where we are hard and cynical where we are trustful in a way that, unless you were born rich, is very difficult to understand. They think deep in their hearts that they are better than we are because we had to discover the compensations and refuges of life for ourselves. Even when they enter deep into our world or sink below us, they still think they are better than we are. They are different. F. Scott Fitzgerald. The same thing that I've talked about before applies here. The wealthy think differently than we do, just like people in foreign countries think differently than we do. They don't have concepts of suffering. They don't have beyond, like, my dog died or a loved one passed away. They're going to have those because they're inevitable and unavoidable. But the other things, they have absolutely no concept of at all. I mean, they have staff to change light bulbs for them. So elite thinking, as it's termed, is under attack, and rightly so. I'm not even kidding. I've seen people that wealthy before. I worked for one in Los Angeles, an attorney named Larry Stein. The guy had one of those Maserati saloons that's custom made, and you go to Italy to pick it up, and all of the details inside the wood are like teak, are inside the car are like teak wood, and it's all hand detailed and polished. The car itself was like $300,000.
Wow.
And he thought nothing of going to get one. I think he had two.
Okay.
Elite thinking, as it's termed, is under attack, and rightly so, for being out of step with the rest of the country. Let's hit a couple of the highlights here. When most Americans have suffered a loss of real take-home pay, 74% of elites say they are financially better off. Nearly 6 in 10 say there's too much individual freedom in America, double the rate of all Americans. More than two-thirds, 67%, favor rationing of vital energy and food sources. 70% of elites trust the government to do the right thing most of the time, mostly because they own the government. Pop was just talking about that. Two-thirds say teachers or other educational professionals should decide what children are taught rather than letting the parents decide. We all know why that is. Somewhere between half and two-thirds favor banning things like SUVs, gas stoves, air conditioning, and non-essential air travel. It's not essential for you to travel. It's just not essential. You don't need to travel. You'll be fine.
While they fly around on their private jets.
Precisely. About 6 of 10 elites have a favorable opinion of the so-called talking professions: lawyers, lobbyists, politicians, and journalists, formerly known as the needle trades. But we can't go into that because we're on YouTube. President Joe Biden enjoys an 84% job approval rating from this group. Why? Because they pull his damn puppet strings. Point blank.
They put their hand up his ass and turned him into an ATM sock puppet.
That's exactly correct. He's a sock puppet, and he's a sock puppet that behaves well, and 84% of the elites agree. The survey is a first of its kind look at the views of the American elite, defined as people having at least one postgraduate degree, earning at least $150,000 annually, and living in high population density areas. There's a big one right there. Is all of these elites, they're actually, the term I've heard the most is coastal elites. And they live in Chicago, New York, Miami, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, and they live lives of luxury while these cities are literally falling apart. You can find articles all over the news. Maybe we should do a show on that. The death of American cities. They're dead. A
Yes.
lot of American cities are dead right now.
Yeah.
There's actually a conspiracy theory going around about with the Super Bowl. If you haven't seen this one or heard this one yet,
Ooh, do tell.
so I might have to save that for another day. But we'll go into the basic details. If you look back at this year's Super Bowl, last year's Super Bowl, and the year before that, and you look at what teams were involved in it, and then you look at the logo, and then look at the ratio of the colors, it predicts the winner, quote, predicts the winner of the Super Bowl. The team with the least representation wins the game. So this year's is purple and red, and there is less red than purple in there. Guess which city happens to be going through a shitstorm, pun intended, these days?
Well, let's see.
Well, San Francisco for one.
Yeah.
That would be one, and then there's another one that's these two teams are still in the runnings. The games are this weekend or next weekend. I don't fucking care. But Baltimore and San Francisco is the predicted teams to play in the Super Bowl.
Interesting. We'll have to watch and see what that says. There was a chat flying by here. So go over on YouTube said how dumb the elites are. Chicago is not a coastal city. I beg to defer. You need to see Lake Michigan up close, dude.
Yes.
That is a coastline. It is not a lake in the normal sense of the
Don't
word.
walk around between some of those big buildings in the spring or the fall because that wind gets going.
Yeah, and it will take you for a ride. It will. I grew up on Lake Michigan.
Yeah, I had a former commander. He had eight brothers and sisters, and I told him never take your mother to Chicago because that whistle sack will howl. Yeah, he got a little upset at me for that one.
That's messed up. It's very funny, but it's messed up.
Well, we were north of the Omama line, so what are you going to do?
Yeah, you were safe there, I suppose. Let's see here. What have we got? Let's take another look at some of these pie charts that they got rocking here.
Yeah.
Does the United States provide too much individual freedom, too much government control, or is the balance about right? Voters say there is too much control. The elites say there is way too much freedom to the tune of 47%. And
Wow.
Ivy League graduates say 55%. Now, before the show, I told Pop and Jimmy the allegory of the cave from Plato's Republic. This is a perfect example of that because those Ivy League guys, they never leave their little bubbles. They're the ones who really never experience any hardship unless something very bizarre happens. They're the ones whose lives are perfect and they go to the Cape during the summer and spend their summer there. And in the winter, they go to Bora Bora and they've got 2 Maserati saloons and that kind of thing. That's how you get this kind of thinking.
Yep.
Is people living in a cave looking at shadows. And if you don't know what Plato's allegory of the cave is, look that up and it will explain all kinds of stuff to you like that.
Correct. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of people here in America have no idea how the world really works as well.
At all.
And I've talked about this before, the safety of 5 fences that everyone lives behind. You got your city police, county police, state police, federal police, and the military.
Yeah.
You literally have 5 rings of safety around you. And people don't experience hardship or any of that other stuff. And they think the whole world is nothing but champagne, rainbows with an occasional piece of chocolate or vanilla cake. No, that's not how it works. Every fucking single day you are here, something had to die. That's how the world works.
Yeah, and increasingly those 5 fences, and Pop's been talking about those for a long time, dude. You've been talking about the 5 fences for like 10 years that I know of.
Yeah.
But increasingly those fences are being turned toward us and they're now becoming our prison.
Yes.
Most of the city police A lot of the county police, depending on the state that you're in, a lot of the state police, depending on the state that you're in, definitely the FBI.
Mhm.
Definitely the FBI has been turned in on you. You are now living within 5 rings of basically a free range concentration camp.
And why do you think they want to take away all our guns?
Oh yeah, I wonder why.
Because
Why on earth would they want to do that?
they want to do stuff to us that would make us want to, do stuff back.
Apply kinetic energy to the problem?
Yes.
Yep.
And listen,
So, yeah,
this is nothing new. The founding
no.
fathers knew that this was going to happen at some point. They put the safety mechanisms in the Constitution. But here's the problem. If everyone who's supposed to enforce the Constitution has been bought and paid for, then what do you have?
Wow, have we missed the point? And I mean this as a population. What you just said there shows how we've missed the point. Because the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence specifically tell us who's supposed to right this wrong.
Yes,
That'd
they do.
be us.
That would be us, the
That would
citizens.
be us, we the people. We're the ones who are supposed to unfuck this mess. Period. Now, one of the other fun things they want to do, and this is also a magnificent way to control the population, a microcosm of exactly this occurred in Africa back in 1993. Was Gothic Serpent?
I believe so. It was after Somalia.
The warlords in Somalia took control of the ports and took control of all of the food, which absolutely made the population subservient to them because got to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So pick your warlord and hope you pick the right one because that's the only way you're getting any food. Now, to fight climate change, would you favor or oppose the strict rationing of gas, meat, and electricity? The Ivy League graduates, to the tune of 87%, said they would control. 87% would control
That's
your
almost
food,
all of them.
your electricity, and your fuel. That's almost all. And again, with that bubble mindset that I was talking about. That's a perfect example here again. With the elites, it's 77%. It's still 77%.
Wow.
And it's 28% amongst the general population, but you have to take into account 3-4 generations now of people brainwashed in schools taught by these Ivy League graduates. Your textbooks do not come from proper research. Your textbooks come from these Ivy League graduates who tell you what your children are going to be told. That's literally where these. I remember the year 1985, where we went from America the Beautiful in textbooks to America the slaver colonization nation. It was 1985. I remember walking into class and the textbooks were completely different.
Okay. Yeah.
87%.
Let that number sink in. All right. Let's just round it up to 90%. So that's 9 out of 10 guys who come out of these Ivy League school thinking, fuck you guys. And what have I been saying here? When you can no longer feed your family, drive to work, historically speaking, it doesn't go well for the people at the top once that actually happens. And you just wait and fucking see. All right. Because there's a whole boatload of people out there who has saved up their entire lives to be able to retire. And that money has already been fucking squandered. In fact, it's being used by BlackRock and other investment companies who aren't even in America, who are using our own money against us. That needs to get fixed as well, because guess what? Money is a weapon.
There is a class of elites out there that I call stateless cosmopolitans. And these people are so wealthy that they don't have to pay attention to what country they're from or where they live at the moment, because they have literally houses in Tonga and France and Colorado and Hawaii and Belize and Cartagena. They have houses all over the world. They can live anywhere they want at any time. They're stateless cosmopolitans because they're so wealthy. And they don't care at all what you think about anything. They think your idea of having a country is quaint and adorable.
Yep. There
That's
is there is no such thing as border lines. They're just lines on a map.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. And when you look at this, is an interesting one to me. Favorable opinion of the members of the talking professions. In other words, people who don't actually do anything for a fucking living.
Well, one, they don't do anything for a living. They use a bunch of weasel words. They have no problem
Yes.
cutting your throat administratively. And if you
Yes.
object to it, they call guys with fucking guns to come fuck you up.
Yes, or your car mysteriously crashes into a pole at high speed.
Yeah. Well, these things happen. What are you gonna do?
These things happen. So lawyers, the elites, especially the Ivy League graduates, lawyers, they trust 91% of Ivy League graduates trust lawyers because that's where they derive their power from. Look at the number of people who have law degrees, and the ones who have law degrees from Princeton, Columbia, University of New York, the really good schools, Stanford, those places, they're clubs. Those attorneys, I've worked with them. It's a club, and if you're not in the club, they simply do not care and they'll do whatever they want. Members of Congress are essentially drawn from that same club. Journalists are sort of like the tier 2 club of the good schools. I mean, you get your average, your weather girl and your reporter on the street for like Channel 7 or Channel 4. Those aren't the journalists. We're talking about the top tier guys who sit on the desks at CNN and Fox and MSNBC, and you know the ones that I'm talking about.
Yep.
Those guys come from those elite schools as well. And if they didn't start there, they get a degree from there so that they can join the club.
Yeah, that's a problem right there.
What's the old famous George Carlin quote? It's all one big club and you're not invited.
You're not invited.
Yeah, you're right. But here's the thing. All right. Now, when I was a young buck and I found out I had dyslexia, I literally decided, you know what? If I'm going to fucking be stuck here in Army land, I am going to become the most elite motherfucker I possibly could. All right. And I worked my ass off to get there. Blood, sweat, tears, pain. A lot of these other individuals that are in this club, they were born there. They were given the money. They didn't have to put in the work. They don't appreciate where they are, other than the fact that they want to stomp you out of existence. All right. There's almost 8 billion people on the planet. So, and they want to have 500 million returning or left. So what is that? That's like what, 2 out of 10?
2/3 of the planet. They want 2/3 of the planet dead.
Yeah. They want 2/3 of the planet done. All right. We just had this vax mandate and all this other horse shit. You know, I'm watching videos on YouTube, but this is this Nurse Campbell from England, who's covering all of the excess deaths that are happening across the entire globe. Nobody's talking about it. And some of these numbers are in double digits above the 5-year average prior to 2020.
Yeah.
So
It's
if you
insane,
have
the number of deaths that are coming in.
100,000 people die in that, I'm just using a hypothetical number here, and then all of a sudden it's 115,000. Nobody's going, why did 15,000 additional people die? Nobody's talking about that.
None of this is making the general news, Pop.
No. We are
Zero
being extermination. What is the word for that? Extermination.
Genocide? You're looking for...
Yeah. They want to exterminate us. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or, some conspiracy theorist. I'm just telling you the truth. And,
it's the truth.
And a lot of those people who are calling, the bullshit flag 10, 15 years ago, they called them, conspiracy theorists. Now they're like saying, well, they were fucking right.
I had the FBI show up at my door because I said the border in the United States was going to get hit in 2019. That's why they showed up at my door, because I was online telling people what just happened in Europe is about to happen in the United States. Watch. And sure enough,
boom,
here it is.
Yep.
Told you. The pattern was obvious. I'm not some sort of genius. I was just paying attention, and I listened to what they were telling us. They straight up told us they were going to do this.
Yep.
Yeah,
they made no bones about it at all.
let's go through some more of this document because literally they're telling on themselves here. They literally,
Yeah, that's correct. I clicked on the thing, Jimmy. Sorry. Biden approval. I don't even care about the Biden approval rating.
No,
He's
fuck
a second
that guy.
puppet. I don't even want to talk about it. Education. On the question of who should decide what children are taught, there is a massive divide. 2/3, 67% of the elites would prefer a candidate who said teachers and other educational professionals should decide. Only 38% of the voting public shares that view. Voters said, well, the important number for me here is 71% of the Ivy League graduates. And back to what I said about they're the ones who write the stuff that the teachers get for your children to be taught. Okay, so that's the only number here that really matters. Parents are starting to push back. There's a lot more homeschooling. There's a lot more going after school boards. We need to keep doing that. If you lose that battle, go back and fight it again. These people will cave. They're cowards. They think that they can do whatever the fuck they want. You need to not let them do that.
Yeah, and listen, when this thing finally implodes, it's not going to be a slow thing. It's already been slowly happening. When it finally gives, it is going to happen quick.
Yeah, and it's going to be really ugly too.
It's going to be.
It's going to be extremely ugly. One of the things that the elites don't want your children being taught, and I stood in front of the Lapeer County School Board here in Michigan and said this. I went through. There was a book out there. Do you remember the whole thing with tranny books?
Yes.
I can't say that on YouTube. I'm sorry, YouTube. Don't strike us for that. I didn't mean it.
All right.
The Troon books.
The books about things. There was a book about things that was written by this girl from the wine country in California. Both of her parents were teachers at elite academies. So I looked at that. I was trying to figure out why this girl is writing this book that's full of stuff that children don't need to be seeing at this age. Her parents were both teaching at elite academies, and I went and looked at the curricula from those elite academies. In 4th and 5th grade, they're learning about the Roman Empire. In 6th grade, they're doing advanced calculations. By 7th grade, they're doing chemistry and calculus. They had a calculus class available at 7th grade. And I'm saying all of this to the school board. I'm standing there in the room on the mic, talking to all of them, reciting all of this back to them. And I said, you know what your children are learning about? Lube.
Yeah.
And I put the microphone down and walked away.
Wow.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the meat caser box.